Hi, first I'm going to give a quick talk about the history of networks. So some of the earliest forms of communication and networks were seen in tribes in places like America and China, where they used things like smoke signals or playing certain drum patterns. This was likely to inform nearby tribes or groups of people of any recent events or to warn them of any attackers and such. And also in ancient Egypt, as far back as 3000 BC, things like homing pigeons were used to carry small notes to other tribes, other areas, other cities, and also the very first courier systems. So the earliest example of dedicated postal systems were used in ancient Egypt around this time as well. So what we would describe as modern networking and communication can probably be traced back to the invention of the first telegraph in 1837, and also the invention of Morse code in 1838, the following year. These were the first examples of wide communication over long distances that could pass a message, although they were very simple, sounds at first. Over time, this grew, and eventually the invention of the first electric telephone followed by Alexander Graham Bell in the 1870s. And at the end of the 1870s, this saw the first commercial telephone lines used, and over time this grew to transcontinental calls and so on, and eventually this can be traced to the production of things like the internet, network satellites, phone networks like 3G, and obviously wireless networks and Wi-Fi.
Hello. First of all, I'm going to tell you something about the positive consequences that network had the past decades. Well, first start with the general purpose technologies. These are technologies that can affect an entire economy, usually at a national or global level. They have the potential to drastically alter societies through their impact on pre-existing economy and social structures. This also applies to network. First, getting in touch with anyone in the world has changed the society drastically. Nowadays, people in both their business and private life are in daily contact with different people. Nowadays, apps like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they're indispensable in the worldwide communication that we have with each other every day. These are called all the social media and the new ways of communication. Secondly, access to new possibilities. Network brings us that. As we know, new technology like network can lead to new technologies. When we look at the impact that network has, we can say that we can always come up with new ideas through network. This makes the possibilities endless. Cultural intelligence is a term used by business and academic research. It can be understood as the capability to relate and work effectively across cultures. This cultural intelligence brings a few crucial benefits. Um, yeah, First one, shared knowledge. This is a very important positive development. It allows people to become acquainted with and understand different cultures. By learning and understanding different cultures, you understand why people do the things they do. Today, the world is fast becoming a global village, with many countries enjoying a multicultural environment. Understanding different cultures is becoming very critical these days. Second one, fast spread of information. Network also offers the disadvantage. This allows companies to work in international teams so they can take advantage of multicultural team effectiveness and global virtual team effectiveness. In this way, companies can benefit from speed and efficiency when working across borders. International economics. The development of network played a major role in the international economy. This had major positive consequences, such as improving relationship with companies, and promoting global trade and international businesses. To begin, network has ensured that companies can improve their business relationship. As a result of that, companies can keep in touch with customers from all over the world. This greatly promotes the international economy. After all, companies are able to maintain more relationship at the same time, and they're able to improve the quality of the relationships as well. In addition to that, the development of network has contributed positively to the emergence of global trade and international businesses. Network has made it easier to conduct global trade, such as import and export. This also had drastically affected the global economy in a positive way.
Okay, thank you, Roy. I would like to continue with the negative consequences of network. I would also like to start with general purpose technologies because a lot of technological innovations in network also lead to negative consequences. I would like to discuss two of those with you. The first is wireless communication, and the second, social dichotomy. Starting with wireless communication, well, nowadays almost everyone got a phone or a computer with wireless network like 4G or the upcoming 5G. But these wireless networks emits radiations which cause health risks. And I would like to discuss two of those health risks with you. The effects on the human skin and the effects on the eye. Starting with human skin, radiation hits the human skin and then penetrate the underlying sweat glands. The radiation will warm up those sweat glands, and then the function of those sweat glands will change and they won't work like before. So that's a bad thing. And the second of all, the for the eye, the white cornea of your eye is very fragile and is kept moist by tear fluid. But with strong radiation, like 4 or even 5G, this part of the eye can warm up and become cloudy. And this reduces the visual acuity and image contrasts. Moving on with the social dichotomy, another negative consequence. Well, social dichotomy, the gap between the rich and the poor increase. And we also see that with technological innovations in, for example, healthcare, because there are some inventions like expensive cancer treatments, which the poor people simply cannot afford if they are not insured for that. So that's also a thing that is a negative consequence because the social economy gets bigger and bigger. I would like to discuss with you two cultural cons, starting with cultures that fade or even disappear. Because back in the days, people from different culture did not come into contact with each other or at a minimum. But nowadays we can communicate with people from all over the world and can travel to other countries whenever we like. And this ensures that people adapt more and more to others and their cultures and even take over cultures and habits in some way, even while they don't even realize it. So this all causes cultures to fade or even disappear. And then moving on with miscommunication, because nowadays everyone got a phone, computer, and we can communicate with people all over the world all the time. And when we communicate with those people, we mostly only meet them virtually and not in real life. So that can lead um, to miscommunication or wrong interpretations if we don't know the culture of the other one, or don't know how they evaluate things, how they express themselves, how they disagree. Um, and because of these new network technologies, this is more common than back in the days when we only meet people in real life. Because back in the days we communicate with people with the same culture and the same background, so we know exactly their habits and how to interpret things. And also, when you meet people in real life, you can see their facial expressions, um, from which you can derive a feeling. And then the economic cons. Well, in the past, networks were limited to the local residents, and so was the economy. So people bought all their goods at local shops. But when the network develops, people began to travel, and there was talk of exchange of goods, which led to globalization. So the whole world got connected, and people start buying things from foreign countries like China. And in most cases, this is at the expense of local shops because they can't compete against those large companies that have lower prices and a wider range of products. So when consumers choose to buy those cheaper products from foreign countries, yeah, local shops won't sell many goods anymore and they will disappear. And another con of this globalization thing is that it's not generally sustainable because instead of walking to a local shop, people buy online goods from foreign countries, which have to ship the goods with vans, planes, or boats. And this causes for a lot of CO2 emissions. And those emissions would not have been necessary if people just buy their goods from the local shops. So it's this globalization thing, it's not a sustainable way of buying and delivering goods, and it's also not good for the environment.
So it's very difficult to predict what will happen in the future surrounding networks and communications. However, we can look at what new innovations are going to be implemented or are currently being implemented and discuss those. And we can also look at concerns surrounding them and how they may change in the future. So one innovation in networking that's going to be implemented in the near future is the introduction of the 5G cell phone network. This will, of course, with it bring improved network speeds and things like improved GPS tracking and such, but also has potential for applications in many fields, including the medical field, and also has the potential to improve smart cities. So applications within smart cities, such as street lamps being dimmed when there aren't any pedestrians around to save on electricity, which is already being implemented, and with 5G, that will just improve that service to a great standard. Another trend we can see is the introduction of machine learning and artificial intelligence. This is already being used and has been used for a few years. However, it's likely in the future we'll only see increased use and increased improvement of these. So one example already in play is the use of artificial intelligence in directing adverts towards people based on their browsing history to find what items they might be more interested in. But in the future, it will lead to things like faster network growth, and we'll see increased use in military applications, in the medical field, and so on. So a definite trend we can see surrounding technology and will likely continue to see is concerns around generational sustainability. This involves basically how these innovations now will affect generations in the future. So for example, talking about 5G network, there are concerns surrounding the 5G cell phone towers. Basically, believing that radiation from these towers can sterilize people, or phones being in pockets can lead to infertility and such, which will obviously affect future generations. However, it's important to note that studies have been conducted, and these towers don't emit ionizing radiation, so they can't harm humans or human tissue. And another issue is security and privacy risks surrounding the implementation of AI, which have been around for a very long time, but will likely only continue, especially surrounding targeted marketing. People feel like it's an invasion of privacy, and obviously there are security risks, because if somebody gets a hold of AI that has bad intentions, they could use it to take over weapons guidance systems in the military, which is a very worst case scenario, but it's a very possible worry, and something like that would absolutely affect future generations for a long time.